Pierre, your party leader has said, Pierre, we need you to vote either for or against this bill. And that is the opposite of what you're telling me, or what you have told me. It is obviously not in you feel that it's not in the best interest of the constituents, but your party boss has said, need you to do this. What do you do?
My first obligation is to the people that I serve, and that's always been the case for me. My second obligation is to my own interest, my own conscience, and my philosophy. I have to take a second place in service to those that have honored me in any capacity to, in fact, be their servant. So if there's something that is put before me that does not serve the interest of those that I serve, then I, under no circumstances, can support it, regardless of whether my party boss leverages me in any way. I just am not in good conscience able to do so.
Okay, thank you. Cris?
You keep asking these questions that seem so easy, and they're really not. There's a third answer. I vote present. Legislators have a responsibility to themselves, to the constituency, but also to their party. And it would be foolish to suggest that party plays no part in what happens in our legislature or any other. If something so offends me on a personal level and a constituent level, I don't care what the party boss says. On the other hand, if there's something that's crucial that we want to happen, and by casting a vote, which I'm not terribly thrilled with, but not terribly opposed to, we can make that happen. That's how politics works, and that's when it works best. It's always a give and take. When it comes to drawing hard lines, I suppose that the legislator with integrity will always take the high road. I know that I will, but I don't have any problem with negotiation.
Okay, thank you. Roxanne?
Well, I agree that you should find out if there's a greater good by following party lines, but I usually go with my gut feeling, and it's the constituents first, my conscience, and that's it, and not necessarily the party line.
Okay.
Unless there's some greater good.
Okay. Greg?
And the question again?
The question is, a piece of legislation has been proposed which you feel strongly one way or the other, and your party boss has indicated that he would appreciate it if you would take the opposite of what you feel is right. How do you respond to him? What do you do?
You have to look what your personal value systems are. I know what mine are. Look at what's good for the constituents, also what's good for the party. And quite frankly, most people that I've met over my years of traveling is you can find a middle ground and you can negotiate. So I would say negotiate, find the best solution to this, and vote accordingly.
Okay. And Cris, what would you change about Maine's clean election laws if you could?
I wish we had a clean election law. We used to, till just a couple of months ago, when the single most devastating thing that could have been done was done. The law was gutted. Clean election is an idea that started in Maine. I'm proud of it. We were the first. Within clean election laws, which were designed to create level playing fields financially among candidates, there was a critical component. It's called match funding, for those who don't know it. And it's only if mechanisms for equalizing the funding between and among candidates exist that clean election laws make any sense. If I could do one thing, I would stand up in front of the legislature, as I did in front of many people this spring, and say, are you guys crazy? We have the model in the nation for what will be the future of elections in America. We need to restore the funding component. And to sit there and say, by doing nothing, we keep the law, was one of the most disingenuous things I've heard the Republicans say in the last 2 years. I would restore the funding component to Maine's clean election law.
Pierre?
Chris is absolutely right, and especially in light of Citizens United and the influx of money that used to call it soft money, but it's hardly soft money anymore. We all realize that money buys media, and that once that happens, it can dominate the message, and the small voices are drowned out. The old saying, the big fish eats the little fish, that is in fact the case. Money is not speech. Money is not free speech. Money is the ability to buy airtime in various platforms. When we, in this room, most of us were young, there was a quaint method of selling cosmetics and fashion hatched out of Madison Avenue, and it was subliminal seduction. Now it is an exact science. It is a marketing technology that's measurable, and it's a behavioral science that is absolutely at work on a daily basis on our electorate and on consumers, which is what all human beings are now. Unless and until we level the playing field and get all soft money and PAC money, et cetera, out of the political process, we will not have, in my view, and in the view of most clear-thinking citizens, a process that is fair and balanced and truly serves the citizens.
Okay. Thank you, Pierre. Greg, what would you change about Maine's clean election laws if you could?
I'd restore it to where it was, very simply. I agree with Chris. It was gutted. We don't have the matching funds. To me, it was a fabulous idea. Though I have not taken any clean election funds this time around when I see what's happening with the budget. And I'm just thinking, well, what the heck? This is a small community. I'll try to reach out, because quite frankly, when we're cutting people off and children off and sick people off the health care rolls, take the $1,400 or so you were going to give me and restore it to there. I'm fortunate enough, I'm not rich, but I don't need it right now. But I thought Maine was the leader in this, and it was a wonderful idea, so I'd restore it. But courts say we can't, so we got to work around that.
Okay. Roxanne?
I am a Maine Clean Elections candidate, and I did read about the matching funds or the PAC's money, the other things that you could qualify for, and I have chosen to stay away from anything like that. I know that these gentlemen applied. I'm not sure that they're certified, but in any case, I'm sticking to the basics. I'm not going to be advertising on TV or anything like that. If it could be restored, that would be great. And
Okay.
I would not participate in any taking of PAC's money or matching funds. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we've been at this now for about 35 minutes, and we'd like to hear closing remarks. And Greg, would you start us off, please? Take a couple of minutes.
Hello, closing remarks. No citizen is asking questions. Since none of your questions have pertained to Old Orchard, they've been conceptual.
That'd be fine. If you'd like to address the forum, please come up and do so.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Jerome Beggart from here in Old Orchard. One message. and then a question, and feel free to reflect on either. Whoever goes up to Augusta, good luck and God bless. Do you know that you can bring back to Old Orchard $1 million of extra revenue per year for Old Orchard's needs in our comprehensive plan wish list? If whenever you come across an opponent in Augusta, an opponent of the local option sales tax who's trying to obstruct that, you ask them, what part of local and option do you not understand? But about the moderator's question on efficiency, the more you save, the more you can afford. The only way that can work is you don't define savings, and this has been an eternal problem in politics. You don't define savings as cutting spending from essential programs for our neediest citizens and for solving our worst problems, then steal that money so you can bribe biggest campaign donors with political patronage payoffs disguised as corporate subsidy tax breaks, sometimes called investment or bonds. Yes. That always results in a cost shift down to the local government, which are the local taxpayers who worked and saved all their lives so they could use already taxed income to buy a sales taxed home or a mom and pop business, only to be taxed every year to keep it, only to be taxed through probate after they die, and maybe their children inherit it. So when Augusta spending cuts threaten to become patronage, and then cost-shifted unfunded mandates, and then a burden on us locally, will you beat that down?
Yes. How's that? Very simple. I have had heartburn for years with the tax breaks for certain people, these other breaks for these businesses. We've got a budget, we've got to fund it. What is the return on our investment? You very seldom see that. You very seldom see an accounting at the end of it. When we give international military industrial defense complexes these tax breaks to locate here, locate there, whatever community is going to do the cheapest, they'll stay or they'll leave, and they promise these jobs. Do we get those jobs? Do we get the $30 million back? Do we get the money back that is got to come from some other place? Where is the balance there? I hear this time and time again. We just cut taxes for this industry. Well, who's going to make it up? I don't get it. It has to be fair. And we ought to be looking at who's going to pay for those tax breaks. And before we give them, we ought to be looking at what do we get in return? Is it worth it?
Thank you, Greg. Roxanne?
One of my major goals is to see that the revenue sharing that Old Orchard receives from the state and bases their budget on, the cuts stop. And whatever it takes, and this is part of it, I will pursue.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I want to thank Jerome for basically stating the Democratic platform for Maine and the country. Well done. He mentioned something called the local option, and of course, folks in Old Orchard expect that their legislator is going to go to Augusta and do everything they can to bring funds back to their district. And of course, that's a huge part of the job. The other part of the job is also acting responsibly on behalf of the rest of the state of Maine. And here's where the local option gets a little bit dicey. Essentially, if you don't know what it means, it's imposing a sales tax which can be opted into by municipalities. The revenues that they draw from that, and Old Orchard is almost unique in this state because the amount of spending that goes on here is astronomical 2 months during the year. That's the option you're talking about. George Hogan and I had a lot of talk about this over the last few months. It's one of his pet projects. It never flew because in the legislature there are all kinds of competing interests, but it is certainly something that should be examined, and one, if I'm elected, I would hope to discuss fully with my colleagues in the legislature.
Thank you, Chris. Pierre?
Yes, thank you, Jerome, because clearly, as we first had come up in one of our earlier answers, the local option sales tax is imperative for not only the support of our community and the additional burdens that the influx of tourists that we're obliged to carry with respect to our public works, with respect to our public safety activities, all those costs are imposed upon us, and it is not a proper balance presently. As we've noted, only 1% of the current sales tax comes back to the local coffers, and that's just not appropriate, especially in our case. On the broader scheme of things, for over 3 centuries, millions of Americans, and even before we called ourselves Americans, hewn out this great society that we have now out of the wilderness. And for generation upon generation upon generation, they bled, sweat, and gave life and limb to both create and preserve and protect the great institutions that we now have the benefit of, that industry and those most blessed among us have the ability to protect their contracts with our Justice Department, transport their goods and services in our vast infrastructure of roads, bridges, waterways, et cetera, et cetera. We move our waste under our roads and treat our wastewater and deliver quality, clean water to the citizens, the businesses, and the industries that are in this country. For generations, there was an understanding and a philosophy that we would invest today so that those that are coming after us would also enjoy the benefits of those same institutions and infrastructure that we have been able to reap from. That lack of understanding now and the arrogance of entitlement by those that have reaped and continue to reap the greatest from this system that serves them so well, as if to say that they alone have been, and their labors alone have been what have created the fruits of these labors, is extraordinary. And that basic understanding, that misunderstanding of the way ecosystems work and the way systems and societies must work, paying it forward, has to once again be the fundamental way that we do business and the fundamental way that we understand and invest in the future.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. All right, and closing remarks. Cris, would you like to start us off, please? Please take at least 2 minutes.
I was never a leadoff hitter. I did better at cleanup. Okay. First, I want to thank you, Roy, and members of the Saco Bay Dems and the Old Orchard Dems for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak to the community. It's very refreshing to sit with 4 candidates who aren't tearing each other apart. That's one of the things that I think distinguishes Democrats. And so where do you come down? You have 4 people who are absolutely devoted to this community, 4 people with long histories of engagement in various arenas in town and in Saco Bay. The answer is that you get to know each of us better. You go to websites, you go to campaign sites, you talk to us when you see us on the street, and you make decisions knowing that the value structure for each candidate is the same. And what I think voters need to decide is which of us has the best credentials, the experience and the talent in order to make a difference for District 132 in Augusta, and then come out to vote in June. If you sit at home and wait for November, the choice will be made for you. I'm assuming everybody watching this show, I'm hoping, will be voting Democratic, and those Democrats who are watching, you can do that too. But voting in June is what's critical. That that will allow us to take back the House in November.
Thank you, Chris. Pierre, 2 minutes, please.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure to be here this morning and to share a forum with some of my fellow citizens that have decided that they would take the challenge to represent this community. I'm certain that any of us here would be honored to have that opportunity. That said, one of the most significant aspects that we're facing as a challenge is to create and to restore some balance at the State House level. Presently, the pendulum, as I've mentioned earlier, has swung far to the right, and as a result, the narrow constituency that is servicing right now, and I say servicing because clearly that's what's going on, is directly affecting those individuals that will be the future of Maine. The investment that's lacking as a result is what we have to move forward to protect and to restore and then preserve the basic foundational philosophies of the Democratic Party.
Thank you, Pierre. Greg, your closing remarks, please.
Sure. Been a resident in Maine a long time. I'm a lifelong fisherman, hunter, conservationist. I believe in land for Maine's future, preservation of our shorelands, our wetlands protection, vernal pool protection, which has been in the news in the last 2 years. We had a person say, why do we need vernal pools? They just dry up anyway. That is what a vernal pool is. We've done a wonderful job in this state of making it a good place to live. And if I'm elected, I will stand with our district here and protect the gains we have made in the environment. Clean air, safe drinking water, clean recreational water. I'm looking forward to the day when the entire Saco Bay here is open to shell fishing, so after a storm I can walk right down here and get some surf clams. That's wonderful. Health care coverage, the system is flat, broken, busted. We're throwing people off. I pay out of pocket almost $900 a month for health care coverage for myself and my daughter. $900 a month. Years ago, I met Linda Valentino. She showed us some property. The mortgage on that property on the Ross Road years ago would have been $450 a month. I'm paying a house payment for health insurance, never mind the deductible. Public education, we have a commissioner right now who wants to take public education funds, which we're all strapped for, or if they doesn't come back to us, it's going to raise our taxes and give it to private and for-profit in these schools. And equity for all Maine citizens. You asked the senators running. I absolutely believe in that. We are all equal. We should have equal rights. And if elected, I'll make sure that I stand with our citizens and protect the gains we've made and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Roxanne?
Okay, thank you. My goal in running for state rep is to make sure that all citizens of Orchard Beach and Ocean Park are well represented and receive their fair share of resources that we need to protect our health of our older citizens, to protect our local jobs, and to help grow our local economy. The state continually shifts expenses from the state level onto the town level. The line item veto that the governor just executed directly impacted Maine Care recipients. Just a few days ago, we watched our Old Orchard Beach Town Council struggle to help provide small amounts of general assistance type funds to local social welfare and medical assistance agencies. To those types of costs get transferred to local level while cutting financial help to the cities and towns. The state takes 7% sales tax from our hotels and restaurants, but we receive less than 1% back. The state just does not kick any of that back to resort towns like ours to help generate the revenue for the state. Generate the revenue for the state. Excuse me, I'm tongue-tied. If I'm elected, I will work hard to increase shared revenue dollars to help lessen the tax burden on our residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure being your moderator today, and this concludes the forum.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.